let's get our seeds ready to crack and wake them up. So we've got 4 cannabis seeds here. These are called Kootenai Lemon variety, and I really liked them last year. I grew them, and there's lots of limonene terpene in there, and it's quite citrusy, and I find it quite energizing and uplifting. So it's a really nice strain. So we're going to wake up these seeds by placing them into a little cup of room temperature water for about 14 to 18 hours. And they will sink to the bottom. So you just kind of press them and push them down to help them sink to the bottom. Some seeds won't sink, that's okay. Basically, we're just wanting to make sure that they're fully covered in water. So 14 to 18 hours, and that helps to wake up the seeds. Sometimes some of them will crack, they'll crack open, and then we're going to transfer them to a paper towel. If they don't crack after 18 hours, don't worry about it. You can still do the transfer over to the paper towel to begin the germination process. So this is step number 1, 14 to 18 hours soaked in room temperature water, preferably filter-free or filtered water. So bottled spring water or something like that, not chlorinated water. No chlorine. And there we go. Our seeds are ready to do the second step. So our first step, we soaked them overnight, and you can see they're floating. I mean, no, not floating. They've sunken to the bottom. So that's great. That means they're ready for the next stage. So we've essentially cracked them. They don't look like they're opened or anything, but that's okay. We've woken them up. And so I've got some paper towel here. I just have a few pieces folded together, and I'm going to dump this right on here. So I want the paper towel to be moist on both sides, and then I'll get the seeds in there too. So there we go. There's all 4 seeds. And I don't want it to be like soaking, but I do want it to be a little bit damp. So I'm just going to spray the areas that didn't get it. And then I'm going to create a little bed for them, and then do the top too. So we don't want it to be sopping wet, but we want them to have enough moisture that it's going to spur them on to sprout. So that's what we're watching for, is for the seeds to sprout. So I'm going to place this into a warm, dark room with some good airflow, and make sure that it's not in direct light or anything like that. And the seeds will crack open and make a little taproot. So once the taproot is about 1/2 centimeter to 3/4 of a centimeter, then they'll be ready for transplanting right into a small pot. So it could take 2 to 7 days for them to open. So I'm going to keep my eye on it over the next couple of days. And that is step 2, is germinating our seeds. Okay, our seeds have sprouted and they have tails now, so we're going to put them into their pots. So let me see what's happened here. So we've got our 4 seeds. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see them or not, if they can get close enough. But this little seed's got a nice little tail on it, and that's just about perfect, and they all are. And did I drop it? Good Lord, I dropped it. Okay. So this one's got a really nice little tail on it. So we're going to get them into the pots and mix our soil. So first I'm going to start with some regular soil. This is just a potting mix, a starter mix. And I'm going to fill up the pot mostly with our starter soil. So we have our starter soil with, it's an organic starter soil. And then I'm going to put some worm castings into it as well. So it's kind of like just the top part fill up with worm castings, so it's nice dark soil. quite nice. So we've got our starter soil and then worm castings on the top, and then I'm going to put mycorrhizal. This is called microgrow, and it's a mycorrhizal fungi. So it's really good for the microbiome of the soil. So I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of this in. And we're going to mix it all up. This is going to feed the seeds for the first while. We won't need any nutrients for the first while. There's enough in here. So let's just moisten it up a little bit with water. So this is filtered water, no chlorine. Could be spring water, just not reverse osmosis, because that takes out too many of the minerals. So we've got a regular, clean water. You could use bottled water too if you wanted. Just try and get the chlorine out. Leave the water out over 24 hours in an open container, and that will also help to diffuse the chlorine. Just make sure there's no big lumps, everything's mixed well together, and it has a little bit of dampness. So I'm going to put even a little bit more water in there. Just don't want it to be like dry, super dry. Okay. You can see that nice combined dirt, still a bit of lumps. There we go. So I'm going to fill up our containers. So I've just got like 3-inch containers. You could use yogurt containers, and then just make sure there's holes in the bottom so the water can seep out. And they could be even smaller than this. They can be little plugs. Yeah, smaller containers. I'm going to do it in this one so I don't have to transplant them right away. And this seems to work really well for me. But whatever small size of container you got. They can be round, they can be square, nothing too fancy. Okay, and one more. Although I'm not going to fill the 4th one right now because I dropped the seed. So that happens sometimes. So if you want to sprout more seeds, more than 4, if you have more than 4 seeds and you want to sprout more than 4, go for it. I know we're only allowed a limit of 4 with Health Canada, but sometimes we need a bit of contingency there for when things happen. And then we have our seeds. So I'm going to just put a little, like about maybe 1/2 inch deep, put a little hole in the center. And then I'm going to put the seeds in with the tails down. Seeds in, tails down. Just need to see here. Yeah, just make sure if you can. I like to use little tweezers. They really help. Tail down. Oh, there it is. Tail down. If you can. They will find their way either way. Okay. And then just gently pat them. Close that hole and just gently pat around that seed. This is just the same as all your other seed starters. Maybe you've got some herbs, other herbs starting already, or some tomatoes or peppers, same sort of thing. Okay, so those are in there, and I'm going to give them some gentle watering. And I'm going to check on them every day, probably twice a day, to see when they start to grow and break through the. I'm going to move this guy out of the way so I make sure I know there's nothing in there, and I'll get another seed in there. Just water them nice. Now they don't need the lights on right now, so I will turn them off, but I'm just having them here so that we actually have light. But they do like a bit of constant warm heat. So underneath here I have a heat mat. So there's the heat mat. So it's going to sit on there and give it consistent temperature. And it likes about 23 to, what do my notes say, 26 to 27 degrees or 77 to 83 degrees Fahrenheit. So I've got my temperature thermometer here, and I'm going to turn it on to about 80. Yeah, about 80 seems about right. That's in the germinating zone. And on this actually has a good indicator too. It has the germination zone there, so that kind of gives you a good guide as to where to go. So I'm going to plug this in. So once I plug that in, then I've got power on and the heat is on, so that's starting to heat up the mat. I also have the lights plugged into here, and they're on a timer right here. I don't know if you can see the timer. And so, but I'm not going to have the lights on right now, not until they start to sprout, and then I can put them on for 16 hours a day with the timer. But right now, everything's just going to stay on. The heat mat will stay on 24/7 because I want that constant heat. I don't want it coming on and off. So that thermostat, in order to check what the temperature is, we need a thermometer. So I'm going to put that in here. This is going to be, and just put it gently in the soil in one of the containers. And then we're going to cover this all up. I'm going to check it again in a little bit because it probably needs some more water. And I've got my top dome that I'm going to put on. And the vents can be closed for now. We want to create a really nice atmosphere for those seeds that are warm and cozy and not cold and no drafts. So that's what this is going to help to do, create that little dome. And then once it starts to build moisture, or if there's any condensation on the top, then I'll definitely open those vents up and let the condensation out. But for now, we're set. Oh, one more thing, do not forget, this is important, is to mark what you've just done. So this is a kootenai lemon. And I also put on the other side what day I put them into the pot. So this is March 30th. And then I can put that right into the pot. So it's important to keep track. I've got my journal here. So this is my journal of all my growing. And so I'm going to record when I put those in and observations along the way so that I know what's going. So that is your whole process of cracking the seed, germinating the seed, and getting the seed into the pots. Have so much fun growing. It's so delightful to be with these seeds and to watch the whole process. So have fun.